While most people are scrolling their phones right now, a quiet disaster is already forming, and the ones who survive it comfortably won't be the ones who panicked and bought everything last minute. They'll be the ones who did the boring, unglamorous work ahead of time. The people who thought through what they actually needed before the shelves went empty, before the lights cut out, before the roads closed. And here's what's wild. It doesn't take nearly as much as you think to be truly ready. In fact, most people dramatically overcomplicate this. They imagine they need bunkers, years of food storage, military-grade gear, or some survivalist lifestyle to be prepared. They don't. What they need is a focused, realistic strategy that covers the situations that actually occur. Blackouts, storms, supply disruptions, medical emergencies, the kinds of things that happen every single year in cities and towns all over the country. So here is what we're going to cover today, and I promise by the end you're going to look at your home differently. This is about the 20% of preparation that handles 80% of real emergencies. That's the whole approach. Not every possible disaster, just the ones most likely to affect your life. This framework saves you money. It saves you storage space, and it saves you from the anxiety spiral that comes from trying to prepare for every unlikely scenario. You want practical, affordable, actually useful preparedness. That's exactly what this is. Welcome to MY Channel, where we cut through the noise and focus on what genuinely matters. Let's get into it. The first place most people go wrong, and it is the most dangerous mistake you can make, is ignoring water. Not food, not power, water. Everything else becomes secondary when you don't have clean water to drink. Your body starts breaking down within days without it. Weeks can pass without food and you'll survive. Water gives you maybe 3 days under normal conditions, fewer if you're stressed, hot, or physically active during a crisis. So this is where preparation has to start. The recommendation you'll hear from emergency experts is storing roughly 1 gallon per person per day. For a 2-week supply, that's around 15 gallons per individual in your household. That number sounds large until you realize how fast dehydration impairs judgment. Clear thinking, problem solving, staying calm, those all require hydration. When you're running low on water, everything else gets harder to manage. But here's something most people never consider. Stored water has an expiration in practice even when sealed. Over time, even commercially bottled water can develop off flavors and potentially harbor bacteria if containers degrade or seals weaken. This is why rotation matters as much as storage. Mark your containers with the date you filled or purchased them. Set a recurring calendar reminder every 6 months to cycle through your supply and replace it. Treat it like changing the batteries in your smoke alarm. It's a small habit that maintains a critical resource. Beyond stored supply, you need backup methods to create safe drinking water from sources you don't control. A quality portable water filter is one of the most valuable purchases in preparedness. Countertop gravity-fed filters work extremely well for home use. Purification tablets are compact and cheap. UV purification pens are fast and effective. And plain unscented household bleach, used in the correct quantities, can disinfect water in an emergency. The key word there is correctly. Learn these methods now. Read the instructions before you need them. Practice once so the process isn't foreign when your hands are shaking and your kids are asking questions. Everyone in your household, including older children, should know where the water is stored and understand at least one purification method. Knowledge shared across your family is far more valuable than gear only you know how to use. Now let's talk about food, and more importantly, let's talk about why most people do this completely wrong. The instinct during a crisis, or right before one, is to buy whatever's left on the shelves. You've seen the footage. Empty bread aisles, cleared out canned goods sections, people buying things they've never cooked before and don't know what to do with. That panicked approach leads to waste, confusion, and food your family won't actually eat when morale is already low. The smarter method is building your supply gradually from what your household already consumes. The target is roughly 23,000 calories per person for a 2-week period. That averages out to about 1,500 calories per day. It's not a feast, but it keeps you functional and clear-headed. And in an emergency, functional and clear-headed is everything. Focus on foods that require minimal preparation, shelf-stable items that don't need refrigeration and have canned beans, vegetables, and fruit, peanut butter, rolled oats, dry pasta and rice, crackers, dried lentils. These aren't exotic or expensive. They're the foundations of millions of everyday meals, and they store well for months or years. Here's the strategy that actually works without overwhelming your budget or your pantry. Add 2 or 3 extra items to your regular grocery run each week, not a separate shopping trip dedicated to prepping. Just 2 extra cans of something you already use, 1 extra bag of rice or oats, a couple extra jars of something your family likes. Over a matter of weeks, this adds up to a meaningful stockpile without a major one-time expense. It becomes a habit rather than a stressor. But there is one critical step almost no one takes: eating what you store. Seriously, rotate your supply into regular meals. Cook with the freeze-dried or canned items you've set aside. Find out now whether your family actually enjoys them, because discovering in the middle of a real emergency that your kids won't touch the food you stored is not the moment you want that information. Test everything in advance. Replace what you use. Keep the supply fresh and familiar. Dietary needs matter here too. If someone in your house has allergies, intolerances, or medical conditions that restrict what they can eat, that has to be accounted for in your supply. Infants need formula or appropriate food. Elderly family members may need specific nutritional support. Don't plan a generic supply and assume it covers everyone. Make it personal. And here's something that gets dismissed as frivolous but is actually psychologically essential. Comfort foods, chocolate, a favorite type of cracker, a familiar brand of soup. These things feel minor compared to survival math, but they're not. When children are frightened and the situation feels overwhelming, a familiar snack is an anchor. It communicates that not everything has changed. It provides a moment of normalcy inside chaos. Pack comfort items intentionally, not as an afterthought. You'll be glad you did. Now we move to fire, and this is one of the most underappreciated tools in any preparedness strategy. Fire gives you warmth in cold conditions. It lets you cook food when electricity is unavailable. It can purify questionable water through boiling, and in certain scenarios, it can serve as a visible signal for rescue or communication. The versatility of fire makes it essential, not optional. Keep lighters and waterproof matches in multiple locations, and always have backups beyond those. Ferrocerium rods, commonly called ferro rods, are long-lasting and work in wet conditions when regular lighters and matches become unreliable. Magnesium fire starters are another solid option. For tinder, think about what you already have access to at no cost. Dryer lint catches flame almost instantly and costs nothing. Cotton balls coated in petroleum jelly are compact, highly effective, and can be stored in a small container indefinitely. The thing that separates prepared people from unprepared ones isn't just owning these tools, it's having practiced using them. Get your ferro rod out this week and actually strike it. Figure out the angle and pressure required. Get comfortable with it before stress is involved. Under pressure, you'll default to whatever feels familiar. Make fire starting feel familiar before the situation demands it. If you plan to cook indoors during a power outage, safety has to be the non-negotiable consideration. Only use stoves and heaters explicitly rated for indoor use. Carbon monoxide is odorless and colorless, and it kills without warning. Ventilation isn't optional when using combustible heating or cooking sources inside a structure. This is not an area to improvise. Now let's talk about darkness, because losing power means losing light, and people consistently underestimate how disorienting that is. It's not just inconvenience. Darkness creates psychological stress. It limits movement and increases the risk of accidents. It disrupts sleep and elevates anxiety, especially for children. A solid lighting plan addresses all of that. Headlamps are arguably the most useful lighting tool you can own. They keep both hands free, which is critical when you're trying to fix something, help someone, or move around safely. Stock spare batteries and keep them in sealed bags to prevent corrosion. Corroded batteries in an emergency are one of the most preventable frustrations you can encounter. Avoid it with a simple bag and a label. Beyond headlamps, have multiple light sources, standard flashlights with fresh batteries, candles stored safely away from children and flammable materials, battery-powered LED lanterns that can light a room rather than just a single beam, solar-charged lights that recharge during daylight and provide illumination at night. Glow sticks are underrated for households. They're non-flammable, non-breakable, and give younger family members something they can control themselves, which reduces fear. Redundancy here is not excessive, it's smart. Each type of light source has conditions under which it fails. Batteries die, solar panels underperform on overcast days, candles go out. Stacking multiple options means that when one fails, something else takes over.
Temperature control is another area where people don't realize they have a problem until they're already suffering. Cold is dangerous at levels many people don't take seriously. Hypothermia doesn't require freezing temperatures. It can develop when the body loses heat faster than it generates it, even in conditions that feel merely uncomfortable. For winter preparedness, layering matters more than any single piece of gear. Wool blankets retain warmth even when damp, which makes them superior to many synthetic alternatives in wet conditions. Sleeping bags rated for temperatures below what you'd expect to encounter provide a significant safety margin. Hats, gloves, and wool socks address the extremities where heat loss accelerates fastest. For indoor heating during power outages, look for propane or butane heaters specifically approved for indoor use. Read the label carefully. Not every heater sold at a hardware store is safe inside a sealed room. The same carbon monoxide risk that applies to cooking applies to heating. Keep a battery-powered carbon monoxide detector active whenever you're using any combustion-based heat source inside. Heat is the other extreme, and summer power outages can become dangerous quickly, especially for elderly family members, infants, and people with certain medical conditions. USB-powered fans running off power banks provide real relief. Wet towels and cool water used strategically reduce body temperature. Emergency space blankets, often thought of only as cold weather tools, can be configured to block direct sunlight and reduce heat buildup in a space. Think about the climate where you live and plan for both extremes, not just the one that feels most obvious. Weather doesn't always follow expectations, and the worst emergencies tend to occur in conditions you weren't specifically watching for. Shelter security is something most people associate with camping and overlook for home-based emergencies. But structural vulnerabilities in your home, a broken window from storm debris, a section of roof compromised by a fallen branch, a gap where wind and rain get through, can turn a manageable situation into a miserable and dangerous one quickly. A heavy-duty tarp is one of the most versatile and undervalued tools available. It costs very little, it stores flat, and it can cover a broken window, block a damaged entry point, create a rain collection surface, serve as a makeshift shelter in an evacuation scenario, or protect gear and supplies from moisture. Learn how to secure one with rope and basic knots before you need to. Bungee cords make quick attachment easy. A few practiced knots make it secure. This is the kind of practical skill that takes 30 minutes to develop and could matter enormously in the right circumstances. Medical preparedness is where most people's plans have the most dangerous gaps. A standard household first aid kit from a pharmacy covers minor injuries. That's what it was designed for. An emergency medical kit has to go further, significantly further. Start with the fundamentals. Bandages in multiple sizes, sterile gauze pads, medical-grade adhesive tape, antiseptic wipes, pain relievers including ibuprofen and acetaminophen. These are your first layer. Expand from there. Fever reducers, anti-diarrheal medication because gastrointestinal illness spreads rapidly in disrupted conditions, antihistamines for allergic reactions, medications for motion sickness if evacuation is a possibility, a quality digital thermometer, elastic bandages for sprains and joint support, burn treatment cream, cold packs that activate without refrigeration. Then go one step further into the items most kits don't include. A tourniquet. This is non-negotiable. Severe bleeding can end a life in under 5 minutes. A properly applied tourniquet can prevent that. Learn how to apply one correctly before any emergency exists. Instructions in the moment are not sufficient for something that must work instantly. Splints for fracture support, a CPR face shield, a comprehensive first aid reference manual because under serious stress, memory becomes unreliable and written guidance matters. The single most valuable medical preparedness investment isn't gear, it's training. Take a basic first aid course. Take a trauma care course if you can access one. CPR certification is available through multiple organizations and takes only a few. These skills build genuine confidence, not the fragile confidence of having purchased things, but the real confidence of knowing what to do with your hands when someone in front of you needs help. In widespread emergencies, professional medical help may be unavailable or delayed by hours. You may be the only person available to provide care. Hygiene is where preparedness starts to feel less dramatic and more grinding, but it matters deeply. When clean running water is unavailable, maintaining hygiene requires intentional planning. Wet wipes become essential. They serve for personal cleaning, surface wiping, and basic sanitation tasks. Stock them in quantity. Hand sanitizer reduces pathogen transfer when hand washing isn't possible. Camp soap, particularly biodegradable Castile varieties, works for body, clothing, and surfaces without needing large amounts of water. Don't overlook dental care. 2 weeks without brushing sounds minor. In practice, it creates discomfort and oral health problems that compound over time. Toothbrushes, toothpaste, and floss belong in your kit with the same priority as food and water. Feminine hygiene products for those who need them, deodorant, nail clippers, these small personal care items have an outsized impact on morale and physical comfort over extended periods. Waste management during an emergency requires supplies most people haven't thought about. Heavy-duty trash bags in multiple sizes, disposable gloves for handling waste or performing first aid, disinfectant wipes and spray for surface sanitation, portable waste containment solutions if plumbing becomes unavailable. These supplies directly reduce the risk of illness spreading through your household during a period when medical care is already harder to access. Clean living conditions aren't just about comfort, they're about preventing the secondary health crises that emerge when hygiene breaks down. Diarrheal illnesses, skin infections, and respiratory issues all become more likely when sanitation slips. Your preparedness plan should treat hygiene with the same seriousness as food and water. Communication during an emergency is something most people assume will work until it doesn't. Cell towers become overloaded within minutes of a major local event. Text messages may get through when voice calls cannot, but even that becomes unreliable. Your communication plan cannot depend entirely on smartphones. A weather radio, particularly one with solar charging and hand crank capability, provides direct access to National Weather Service broadcasts and official emergency alerts. These radios function independently of cell infrastructure and internet connectivity. They provide the kind of authoritative, location-specific information you need to make decisions about whether to shelter in place or evacuate, where conditions are improving or worsening, and what authorities are directing people to do. Two-way radios with meaningful range can maintain communication between family members within a neighborhood or small area when phone networks are saturated. Ham radio operators can communicate across much greater distances and often provide informal emergency communication services during major events. Getting licensed requires study and a test, but it provides capabilities that no other consumer technology matches. Low-technology signaling tools deserve a place in your kit regardless of what electronic equipment you own. A loud whistle carries much farther than your voice and requires almost no physical effort. Signal mirrors are visible for remarkable distances in daylight conditions. These simple tools fill gaps that batteries and networks cannot. Before any emergency happens, establish a communication plan with your household. Where does everyone meet if you're separated and phones aren't working? Who calls whom and in what order? What's the out-of-area contact who can serve as a relay point for information? These decisions made in advance, written down and practiced, eliminate chaos and panic in the moment they're needed. Power management is about maintaining your ability to function and stay informed when the grid isn't available. Maintain a supply of batteries in the sizes your devices require. Store them sealed in labeled bags, organized by size, with an expiration date visible. Power banks for charging phones and small devices are now affordable and high capacity. Solar charging panels that can recharge power banks during daylight extend your operational window significantly. A vehicle's 12-volt charging port can power or recharge gear, but manage that resource carefully. A drained car battery means no evacuation option. Plan for what needs power and in what priority order. Communication devices first, medical equipment second, lighting third, entertainment and convenience last. Knowing that hierarchy in advance prevents poor decisions in the moment.
Tools are often overlooked in preparedness conversations that focus primarily on food and water, but they matter significantly. A full-size shovel and a quality axe address a wide range of emergency tasks. The axe lets you process wood for fire, clear fallen branches, and in extreme scenarios, break through barriers. The shovel lets you move debris, dig drainage channels, manage sanitation when plumbing fails, and clear snow or fallen material from access points. Heavy work gloves are underrated. Your hands are your most critical functional asset in any manual emergency situation. Cuts, blisters, and splinters that seem minor can become serious problems when medical care isn't readily available and you need your hands fully functional to manage everything else. Protect them.
Here is something almost every preparedness guide skips, and it may be the most important factor in how your family actually weathers an extended emergency: mental health and psychological endurance. Physical supplies matter, they matter enormously, but the family that is physically well supplied and emotionally fractured will make worse decisions, experience more conflict, and struggle more than a family with somewhat fewer supplies but better cohesion and morale. Human beings are not built for sustained high-stress isolation without any form of relief or normalcy. Pack things that create enjoyment: board games, card games, books, puzzles, a tablet loaded with downloaded movies or audiobooks, sketchpads, journals. For children specifically, simple coloring books, small toys, and familiar comfort items play a significant role in keeping fear manageable. Children interpret adult anxiety directly. When parents are providing structure, normalcy, and even moments of fun, children are substantially calmer and more resilient. Maintain routines as much as circumstances allow: regular meal times, a consistent sleep schedule, a familiar activity before bed. These rhythms signal to the nervous system that the situation is manageable, that there is still a structure to life even when external conditions are chaotic. Routines are not a luxury during emergencies, they're a stabilizing force. Mental breaks from crisis focus are necessary, not indulgent. When attention is locked continuously on a threat, anxiety escalates and judgment degrades. Puzzles, games, stories, and creative activities give the mind relief and recovery time. They preserve decision-making capacity. They maintain the emotional bonds that make cooperation possible. Entertainment during an emergency is not wasted time. It's maintenance of the human system that everything else depends on. Documentation is an area that receives almost no attention in popular preparedness content, and that is a significant gap. When infrastructure fails and institutions are disrupted, proof of identity and ownership becomes crucial in ways that feel abstract until you actually need it. Insurance claims require documentation. Government assistance programs require documentation. Crossing certain checkpoints or accessing certain resources may require identification. Having these things ready, organized, and protected makes every subsequent recovery step faster. Make physical copies of the documents that matter most: birth certificates, passports, property deeds or lease agreements, insurance policies with policy numbers and contact information, medical records and prescription information for ongoing conditions, vehicle titles and registration documents, marriage and divorce certificates if applicable. Store these in a waterproof, ideally fireproof container that you know the location of and that multiple adult members of your household can access. Keep a second set of digital scans on a USB drive stored separately from the physical copies. Write down the phone numbers you need on paper, not just in your phone contacts, on paper. A notebook you store with your kit. Numbers for immediate family members, your insurance agent, your primary care physician, key neighbors, your children's schools, an out-of-area contact. When your phone is dead and you cannot charge it, paper is what works. Most people genuinely cannot recall important phone numbers from memory, especially under stress. Test yourself right now. How many numbers do you actually remember? Local maps matter too, and again, paper is the key word. GPS navigation depends on data connectivity. If cell service is disrupted, digital maps become partially or entirely unavailable. A paper roadmap for your region lets you navigate regardless of network status. This seems outdated until it's the only option that works. Preparedness isn't a project with a completion date. It's a practice that continues and improves over time. The goal is never perfection. The goal is meaningful, realistic readiness that covers the scenarios most likely to affect your actual life. Start where you are. Start with what you can afford this week.
Water and food are your foundation. Build from there. Week 1, address water storage. Get to a manageable quantity, even if it falls short of the 2-week target. Order or purchase a water filter or purification tablets. Mark your calendar for the 6-month rotation. Week 2, start building your food supply. Add extra items to your next regular grocery run. Identify what your family actually eats and would continue eating during stress. Account for any dietary restrictions. Week 3, address lighting. Get at least 2 different types of light sources operational. Check battery supplies. Make sure every household member knows where lights are stored.
Week 4, assess your medical kit and identify the gaps. Order a tourniquet if you don't have one. Look up basic first aid courses in your area or credible online options. Build from there at whatever pace your circumstances allow. Each addition makes a real difference. You're not aiming to be prepared for everything. You're aiming to be prepared for the things most likely to happen, and that goal is genuinely achievable. Share what you're learning with people you care about. Preparedness is more effective at the community level than the individual level. When your neighbors are also prepared, the entire area becomes more resilient. Resources can be shared. Skills can be combined. People who have thought through these scenarios can help those who haven't, and vice versa. This is not about forming isolated groups. It's about building local capacity to handle disruption without complete dependence on external systems that may be overwhelmed. The people who navigate emergencies best are not the ones who happened to be toughest or most resourced. They're the ones who thought ahead, made realistic plans, practiced their skills, and maintained their composure when things went sideways. That's available to anyone. It doesn't require special knowledge, extreme income, or unique physical capability. It requires intention. And the fact that you've spent time on this today means you already have that. If this gave you a clearer picture of what realistic preparedness actually looks like, here is what to do right now. Like this video so that my channel can keep producing content like this. Subscribe so you don't miss what we cover next. And share this with someone in your life who's been meaning to start but doesn't know where to begin. There are people in your circle who are anxious about current events and haven't taken a single practical step. This is the step. Send it to them. The quietly prepared aren't the ones who have everything figured out. They're the ones who started, who took the first step, then the next one, and built something real over time. That's who you're becoming right now. The peace of mind that comes from knowing your family has what they need is one of the most underrated feelings available to you. It's not paranoia, it's not fear, it's confidence. Quiet, grounded, practical confidence. Start this week. Your future self will look back on this moment as the one where things change.